upon the recommendation of the special panel tasked to conduct preliminary investigation. In a 5-page immunity agreement forged between the Ombudsman and Tuazon, Tuazon was granted immunity from criminal prosecution in the said PDAF cases in exchange for undertaking to testify on her personal knowledge on these cases and produce documents in her possession on the details of the alleged misuse of the PDAF and subject to the terms and conditions of the immunity agreement. Under Republic Act number 6770 or the Ombudsman Act of 1989, the Ombudsman has the authority to grant immunity from criminal prosecution to any person whose testimony or whose possession and production of documents or other evidence may be necessary to determine the truth in any hearing, inquiry, or proceeding, or in the furtherance of its constitutional functions and statutory objectives. Under the immunity agreement, in the event Tuazon fails to faithfully discharge her undertakings, breaches any of the warranties, commitments, and undertakings, or materially deviates from her undertakings and her sworn statements, the immunity granted to her shall forthwith be revoked, and the office shall reinstate her as a respondent and include her as an accused in the said cases, without prejudice to her possible prosecution for other offenses, including perjury or false testimony. As Tuazon herself expressly committed to undertake, Tuazon returned today the full amount of 40 million pesos, which by her own admission was derived from the questioned PDAF transactions. In a simple turnover held earlier this afternoon at the Ombudsman building, Tuazon tendered a manager's check in the name of the Republic of the Philippines in the presence of Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales and Justice Secretary Leila Tilima. That ends the press briefing.
Any questions from members of the media? Mr. Joseph Moro from GMA7.
Kapalit.
Sir, si Tuazon lang to, no? Tuazon lang, no?
Yes, as to
Okay,
Mr.
so
Tuazon.
when do we expect the Ombudsman to go up to the Sandigan Bayan for the filing of information?
The filing of the information, if any, would be filed, would be resolved or would be issued after the resolution of the motion for reconsideration. So it would depend on the resolution of the motion for reconsideration. So,
Right, sir. How would you describe the testimonies of Tuazon as far as the whole case is concerned?
yeah, as evaluated by the special panel and as approved by the Ombudsman, the proposed testimony of Tuazon was found to be necessary in determining the truth of the acts committed, and was found to be material insofar as her personal knowledge on her participation in the scheme of the use of the PDAF.
Any questions? Dave from Solar News.
Sir, you mentioned po yung mga resolution for reconsideration, ano? Sa 10 pong sinampahan, sino po yung nag-file na? Nag-file ho ba lahat?
As of the moment, not everyone filed their motions for reconsideration. No? So the special panel is waiting for the filing of the motions, if any. Considering that not all respondents were able to receive the joint resolutions at the same time, owing to the time allowance of the registered mail. So they're giving allowance of time in case they're going to file their motions for reconsideration by registered mail.
Sir, sino po yung mga to, tsaka kailan po yung, kumbaga, deadline?
Yeah, I think the orders, no, on the motions for reconsideration shall be released as soon as possible. So I think the special panel would just allot a reasonable period of time in case some of the respondents would be filing their motions for reconsideration by registered mail. So as soon as possible. Yeah, I think I don't have the list right now, no? But the 3 senators have already filed their motions for reconsideration, and a number of other respondents, no, including Attorney Gigi Reyes and Attorney Janet Napoles, and some of the other respondents.
Sir, sir from Inquirer, sir, how did they decide that the 40 million returned by Ms. Tuason was enough, was satisfactory, and who determined how much she was supposed to return?
Well, by her own admission, no, she earlier undertook to return the 40 million pesos, no. So by her own account, the 40 million pesos was received by her as part of the her share in the for her admitted participation in the whole scheme.
But will the Ombudsman check this, whether this is true, that was all that she got from all the transactions she participated in?
Well, if by own admission of Ruby Tuason, no, there is no need for proof.
Sa puntong ito, alamin natin ang iba pang detalye ng balitang yan mula kay Joseph Morong na nasa Office of the Ombudsman. Joseph?
Formal na ng tinanggap ng Office of the Ombudsman itong si Ruby Tuason ang bilang state witness. Ayon dito kay Assistant Ombudsman Asiman Rafanan na dahil siya na inakasuhan kaugnay ng portal itong si Tuason at gagawin siyang state witness. So may kapalit yan. Sa kondisyon na gina-expose ng Ombudsman testifies doon sa kanyang nalalaman sa portal yung
Okay, balikan na muna natin yung maya-maya lamang itong balita mula sa ating kasamang si Joseph Morong. Nauna nang sinabi ng Ombudsman kanina o sa tagapagsalita ng Ombudsman na inaprubahan na nga itong immunity ni Ruby Tuason. Panoorin po natin ito.
Tuason herself, and as computed from her own statement of having received more or less 5% of the amount, if you were going to compute that, it could be more or less 40 million.
Sir, yung tungkol sa yung issue ng si Napoles pwedeng maging ang state witness kasi ang lawyer ni Ms. Tuason raised concern about this, naka-apekto po ba yon? Ano po yung epekto ng development na yon sa kaso nito sa pagiging immune ni Ms. Tuason?
I think that that is not the consideration of Ms. Janet Lim Napoles as a possible witness is not among those pending incidents before the special panel, and I think there's been no application, or there's been no intimation of that sort being pending before the special panel. So it's never being considered by the panel right now.
Pero sir, since it's a concern, the lawyer was concerned about this, do we expect that Ms. Tuason will tell all?
Well, it would depend on the we cannot second guess on what Napoles would reveal, no. So the special panel is still being guided by what's in the records of the preliminary investigation, and since there is none in the record, so there's nothing for the special panel to consider.
Sir, yung kay Tuason, do we expect na magsasabi siya ng lahat ng nalalaman niya, kahit yun nga concerned sila na baka biglang pumasok si Napoles?
Yeah, I think part of the evaluation of the special panel are the sworn statements of Ms. Ruby Tuason. and all the needed material points or all statements on her personal knowledge or on her participation in the entire scheme are all included or considered in the sworn statements, and she needs to abide by what she stated in the sworn statements.
Mr. Michael Punang-Bayan, sir.
Sir, if and when dumating sa Sandigan Bayan yung charges, this means na hindi nakakasuhan si Tuason. There won't be any need for the Sandigan Bayan to determine kung pwede siyang state witness or not.
Yes, that's the consequence. No? Ms. Ruby Tuason would no longer be pleaded as an accused in any information that will be filed with the Sandigan Bayan arising from these PDAF cases.
Will the Sandigan Bayan be binded by the agreement between the Ombudsman and Ms. Tuason with so far as the immunity is concerned?
Yes, I think the court or the Sandigan Bayan would have to act upon on the information that would be filed by the Ombudsman, if any, after the resolution of the MR. So the answer is yes.
Sir, with regards also to the PDAF investigation, there was a new list provided by Napoles. Is there an investigation being conducted on this?
Yeah, I think investigation by. I think the special panel is the current evaluation of the special panel is the motion for reconsideration by Ms. Janet Lim Napoles, and I think the affidavit or whatever revelations that Ms. Napoles may have allegedly were not included in the motion for reconsideration. So there's nothing that the special panel would be.
Sir,
nothing to consider.
Separate from this, meron po bang investigation that will be conducted since we do motu proprio investigations naman with the new list wherein several more senators are being implicated?
I think the complainants, no, one of the complainants is I think the NBI and the DOJ. So it's up to the complainants to file the necessary pleading. Since the proceedings is now under preliminary investigation, so the panel should not be the one to go out of their way, no, to get the statement. It's up to the parties, meaning the respondents or the complainants, if ever they are so minded to submit the list at this stage of the preliminary investigation.
Ms. Ruth Cabal from GMA 7.
Sir, clarification lang dun sa statement nyo kanina. Si Napoles filed an MR, but the supposed list is not yet included in the MR. Ganun po ba yun?
Yes.
So, ang nire-review ng panel ngayon is just the MR that she filed?
Yes, the MRA.
Sir, walang mga pangalan doon or walang na-mention na names? Or it's just yung parang tinugunan niya lang yung unang resolution ng Ombudsman?
Yeah, it's an MR on the merits of the case of the joint resolution.
Sir, yung standing nung iba pang sila Ben Hurluy and the others, ang nag-file lang po ba for immunity is Ms. Tuason and then Cunanan? Tama po ba?
Yeah, I think as apart from Ms. Tuason, Dennis Cunanan, Rodora Mendoza, and Victor Kakal separately applied for immunity. And these applications are still pending and being reviewed by the special panel.
Sir, paano yung bearing nung Ben Hurluy and the others being provisional state witness? Do they have to formally file for yung grant of immunity separate from that? Ganun po ba yung proseso?
Ben Hurluy and Merlina Suñas and another one, are under the witness protection program, no, and the special panel is considering the previous letter request of Ben Hurluy and the others also applying for immunity this time before the office of the Ombudsman.
Is
So,
that a considered as a formal application na po yung letter na yun for immunity?
yeah, it's up to the special panel to consider that way, or to also respect the immunity grant already granted by the Department of Justice. So that would be one of the considerations by the special panel on the letters of the three witnesses.
Aside from Conanan, sir, sino pa yung dalawa? Rodora.
Rodora Mendoza and Victor Kakal. Kakal.
Mr. Moro, then Mr. Shroki.
Sir, as far as Tuason is concerned, does she have to be automatically covered under the WPP?
I think she's already covered, no, by the earlier.
Okay.
Covered by the Witness Protection Program. So, he was provisionally admitted to the Witness Protection Program under the Department of Justice.
So right now, she's really completely covered already. Covered na siya.
Again.
Covered na siya because of this decision by the Ombudsman. Hindi na siya, wala na yung provisional. Tama? Technically, she will be under complete cover of the WPP.
That's up to the Department of Justice to determine. So if I think from the last from the records, I think she's still under provisional admission. So the effect of the grant of immunity by the Ombudsman on the provisional admission of Tuazon to the Witness Protection Program would be up to the Department of Justice to consider. And as of now, I think the ball is really up to the DOJ. On the
Sir, I'm just interested dun sa MR ni Janet because during the first time, hindi siya nag-file ng MR. And then nung nag-review na, nag-submit siya. Hindi siya nag-submit ng counter but nag-submit siya ng MR. Can you describe to us or at least give us maybe a summary of what she had said in the MR?
I think we could not discuss the merits of the allegation or the contents or defenses of at this time of Janet Napoles, considering that the motions are still pending. Perhaps in the issuance of the orders, that would be discussed.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Shokan,
Sir, yung dun lang po sa details nung 40 million na binalik ni Ruby Tuason, sir, would we know kung saan nanggaling yung 40 million? Saan niya kinuha yung 40 million na pambayad? Kasi diba sir, parang nabanggit na before na nagastos na yung part of the 40 million. So,
we really don't know if that's up to Mr. Ruby Tuason. But the only thing to remember there is she was able to produce 40 million pesos and was able to return the amount in full to the Republic.
sir, follow-up, saan po mapupunta yung 40 million?
The 40 million pesos was received by the office and it will be remitted to the National Treasury.
That's your questions, Mr. Gilles
The Ombudsman has motu proprio power, di po ba? The Ombudsman has a motu proprio power. A while ago, nagkaroon ng meeting si Secretary de Lima and the Ombudsman. Sinubmit ho ba ni de Lima yung Napoles list kay Ombudsman this morning? Nagkaroon na ba sila ng preliminary talks about it po?
I really wouldn't know.
Sir,
Since
motu
it's
proprio,
a
meaning
meeting,
even before the formal negotiation on the Napoles list, di ba pinag-usapan na po yan?
Yeah, I really wouldn't know what transpired between the meeting of the Ombudsman and the Secretary. But we will raise this up with the Ombudsman.
Pero the Ombudsman would ask for the copy of the Napoles list from DOJ Secretary de Lima.
I cannot recall that the Ombudsman has asked the copy from the...
Pero hihingi ho siya.
I cannot answer that question.
Sir, ano ho yung deal ni Dennis Cunanan? Meaning, mag-return siya ng certain amount and ano yung ex-deal niya?
Well, I think the merits of the application, since it's still pending, I cannot discuss the application. But basically, the arrangement in any immunity agreement or in any application for immunity agreement is in exchange of the proposed testimony of Dennis Cunanan. So I
So
think,
di ba parang he's disqualified because wala namang admission from his side that he's guilty. Ang requirement, he should admit that major player siya in a certain crime.
well, that's up to the special panel to consider. If
Yes, ma'am. Last question.
Sir Tej Torres from Inquirer.net. Sir, clarify ko lang, Ruby Tuason is also part of the forfeiture proceedings before the Manila RTC. So, sir, how will the Ombudsman decision to give her immunity, how will this affect dun sa forfeiture case?
yeah, the immunity from criminal prosecution only covers the PDAF cases. No? So the immunity agreement does not cover cases or criminal cases outside of these PDAF cases against the senator. So it's not covered.
Sir, but yung pending sir before the Manila RTC is also about PIDA.
Yeah, I think that was initiated by the Anti-Money Laundering Council. No? So we're talking about Ombudsman cases only. So this specific OMB docketed cases.
Thank you, sir.
Question from Inquirer.
So what kind of message would the Ombudsman be conveying to the public when you say that one of the accused who admits to the crime and says that yes, she did this and she got all this money, suddenly is free from prosecution just because she agreed to return an amount that she came up with. Not even bother to check or even put some interest pa nga kasi it happened many years ago. So ano klaseng message yun?
Well, actually, the evaluation of the application for state immunity was arrived at after considering several factors. No? Among those, the proposed testimony is necessary, considering that Tuazon was an eyewitness or has personal knowledge on certain parts of the alleged scheme on the PDAF. No? And that Ms. Tuazon was not previously convicted of any offense involving moral turpitude, and that she has a direct knowledge on the transaction, and that the statements can be dovetailed with the other evidence available with the Office of the Ombudsman. Because if it's not really because Tuazon returned the amount and that was the only consideration, ano? I think the return of the amount was by admission of Tuazon herself. It was not one of those major considerations arrived at by the office in the grant of the immunity agreement. It just so happened that she voluntarily offered to return the 40 million pesos, and the office could not reject that offer since the Tuazon was already volunteering. And if you could recall, in so many schemes, no, linking the senators, only that of Ruby Tuazon has a personal knowledge or as an eyewitness to link the senators. So you could not really discount the fact that the testimony of Miss Ruby Tuazon. So it's the materiality of the entire participation of Miss Ruby Tuazon from the Napoles NGOs to the senators. And the only evidence that the one of the main evidence that could link them is Miss Ruby Tuazon. So you cannot discount the fact, the materiality, and the return of 40 million pesos is just really one of the minor considerations. So the materiality is very important of the proposed testimony, and the fact that she has personal knowledge. No, so that's just one of the minor considerations.
Last question. Sir Ian.
So do we expect, sir, na ganun din yung mag-a-apply na particular kasi since you said it's one of the considerations, so importante rin siya na yung ibabalik nila sa the other things like kakal and also para mas matanggap sila, mas maging immune sila.
Well, it's not really it's not really one of the major considerations. No? Since, as I've said a while ago, the consideration really is the materiality of the testimony. And since Ms. Ruby Tuason has offered to return the amount, the government saw it fit to include that return of the amount in the immunity agreement, because there won't be any other time for Ruby Tuason if we do not include that in the immunity agreement for her to return. So when will she return the amount? So it's just part of the period within which she voluntarily returned to the amount.
Sir, konti pa. Sir, si Evangelista, nag-file na siya ng full MR niya or partial pa lang? This is one of the tawan ni Enrile.
I cannot really recall one by one yung respondents, but okay. I think all the opportunity to file the MR is given to the parties. So once the allowance of time for the filing of MR lapsed and they have not filed their MR, they have deemed to have waived the right to file one. So the special panel will proceed to issue the necessary orders.
Sir, the Ombudsman has already said that even without Napoles' testimony, the case is strong. Now you have Ruby Tuason as a witness, no? Do you think, given and you said it was necessary, her testimony, do you think you can do away with Napoles as being a state witness?
Well, the consideration of Napoles as state witness would have to be considered vis-a-vis her testimony, and she hasn't given her testimony yet on the participation. So there's nothing to consider. And I think, just like what the Ombudsman Morales said, the case is strong as it is. So even without the whatever testimony of Ms. Napoles or a application, if any, the case is already strong.
Sir, medyo clarification. Anong sinubmit ni Napoles? Because is this a written official MR? What kind of document did she give the Ombudsman?
It's a motion for reconsideration.
Answering the joint reso?
Yeah.
Yung first time?
In motion for reconsideration of the joint resolution.
As a first step siya? Tama.
Again?
Okay, thank you very much to members of the press. Copies of the press release will be provided to the media.
And also the copy of the...
And also a copy of the picture that will also be emailed to the members of the media. Right now.
At yan po ang press conference ng Office of the Ombudsman. Ayon kay Assistant Ombudsman Attorney Astri Manrafanan, aprobado na ng Ombudsman ang immunity ni Ruby Tuason kapalit ng kanyang testimonya mula sa pork barrel scam. Ngayong araw, isinauli na rin ito sa gobyerno ang halagang 40 million pesos na umano'y kickback niya sa PDAP scam. Ireremit daw ang perang ito sa National Treasury. Pinag-aaralan rin ng special panel ang mga liham ng ilang testigo na sina Ben Hurluy at Merlina Sunyas para magkaroon ng immunity. Pero wala pa raw desisyon ukol dito ang special panel. Samantala, hinihintay pa ng Ombudsman ang paghahain ng motion for reconsideration ng mga pinakasuhan ng pandarambong o plunder ng Ombudsman. Wala rin daw formal na aplikasyon sa special panel si Janet Lim Napoles para magkaroon ng immunity. Kasama si Napoles sa pinakakasuhan ng plunder ng Ombudsman. Pero nagpahayag na siya ng kagustuhang tumestigo para sa gobyerno nang makipagpulong kay Justice Secretary Laila de Lima sa ospital ng Makati kung saan siya nagpapagaling matapos operahan.